Hey guys, Sarah here. So today I wanted to go over a question that was asked to me on Facebook the other day, which was how do I go about hibernating my snakes and when do I start hibernating them and for how long? Just a general hibernation question. I know that right now we're in the middle of breeding season, but for those of you who are breeding or who are thinking about breeding, I feel like this question is definitely going to be one that you might be interested in learning the answer to because winter's coming up soon. Winter is coming, and so I actually have a cup. Winter is coming, so you might want to be prepared to hibernate your corn snakes if you're planning on breeding. Before we start the video though, I do want to thank everyone who has subscribed. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do, because once I hit 500 subscribers, I'm doing a book giveaway. I will be giving away this book, this exact one that's in my hand right now. This is the second book in my corn snake cultivar compilation series. The first one I printed for the first year that it was published, but I never did start printing the second one. So I went ahead and have prints of the second one. I do have some prints of the second one available. They're in very limited supply. So if you want to get those, you can go to my website, sarahsnakeshop.com. I'll put a link in the description below. And go ahead and use code HIBERNATION1 to get $3 off if you would like to purchase a book. But if you would like a chance to win the book, subscribe and leave a comment. Let me know that you are interested in getting one of these books and you'd like to be put into the, I don't necessarily want to say drawing, but so that you would be eligible to get the book. I will be giving away, like I said, I'll be doing that once I hit 500 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and share this video everywhere so we can get to 500 and I can give you guys one of these books. So on to hibernation. I usually start hibernating my snakes the year before I want to breed them. So this goes for both males and females. The reason for hibernating your snakes is to help with two main things. The first thing is the males will have better chance of not shooting blanks if they are hibernated before you breed them. So a lot of times like the cold will help with the sperm creation, and if it's too warm, the sperm dies. So it's always better to hibernate the males before you breed them. And that's why males will breed like right after coming out of hibernation in the spring. With the females, it helps cycle them for their ovulation so that they know like when to ovulate, so that they know when to like put off the pheromones for the males. And they do that, like I said, shortly after they will get out of hibernation in the spring. So if you haven't been hibernating your snakes, don't worry about it. If you're just a pet owner and you're wondering, oh, is this something I should be doing? You don't have to. And even if you're a very small scale breeder and you don't have a place to cool down your animals, don't worry about it too much. If you just have one or two pairs, you don't have to worry about cooling them down. This applies to like corn snakes and most other colubrids. So bull snakes, rat snakes, king snakes, milk snakes, most of them anyway, and fox snakes like the one that I have in my art back here. So you can do, this applies to most colubrids. It's going to be different with like boas and pythons and stuff. So I'm going to be throwing out like temperatures at you guys and letting you know like what temperatures to change to. And I'm also going to be using different months. So I'm going to be talking about like, you know, April and then August and stuff like that. And this is all for the northern hemisphere. I'm in the northern hemisphere, so if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's going to be different months for you. So just sort of putting that out there for you guys. So like I said, I usually start hibernating them the year before I want them to breed. So for males, they're going to be about 18 months, and for females, they're going to be about 2.5 years old. And for the first timers, I usually only hibernate them for 2 months. I don't usually put them down for super long hibernation periods. You can hibernate your snakes anywhere from 2 months to 4 months, usually on average. 4 months is kind of the average, like 3 to 4 for adults. And then if you really don't want to go for like 5 months, 5 months is kind of too long. And 6 months is, 6 months is half of the year. So you really don't want to do it that long. But 4 months is kind of the standard. You don't want to go less than 2 months really though, because that's a lot of shock to put on a snake's body in a short amount of time. That's a lot of temperature change in a very short amount of time, and it's just not good for your snakes to be like fluctuating the temperature that frequently, that much. So remember, minimum of 2 months, maximum of like 4.5 months if you have to. Another reason that a lot of big breeders will hibernate their snakes is also to not have to feed them quite as much. I know some of the bigger breeders will they'll get all of the snakes out of hibernation, go ahead and breed them, get all the eggs, and then they'll be bulking them back up to put them back down in hibernation so that when all the eggs hatch, they don't have to be dealing with the hundreds of baby snakes as well as all of their adults. They can put all of their adults in hibernation and not have to feed them for a few months while they are selling off the babies. So that's kind of like one big reason that a lot of bigger breeders will want to put their adults in hibernation is so they don't have to be feeding hundreds of snakes. They can just be dealing with the babies that were hatched. So that's just, like I said, that's just another reason that some people would hibernate. I usually will start hibernating in, if I can, at the end of October, beginning of November each year. That's when fall kind of starts and things start to cool down. I hibernate in my garage. I actually recently moved to this house, and when I say recently, it was a little over a year ago. But last year I hibernated in my garage. My snakes hibernated in my garage. I didn't hibernate in my garage. And there was some time when it got colder than it should. So where you want to hibernate is between 45 degrees Fahrenheit and 65 degrees Fahrenheit. You don't want to hibernate them higher than that because then their metabolism is higher and they will still be burning calories, which means they're going to start losing weight, and you don't want them to lose a whole lot of weight while they're in hibernation. If it's colder than that, that's just too cold. Their bodies can actually start to shut down, and you don't want that to happen. You just want it to be in that range that's safe for them. So between 45 degrees Fahrenheit and 65 degrees Fahrenheit. I try to keep it as close to that middle ground, that 55 degrees Fahrenheit, as possible. What I ended up doing this last winter, though, because there were days when it got colder in my garage than 45 degrees, I actually set up in a corner of my garage, kind of a cardboard surrounded area, and I put a heater, a space heater in there with a thermostat so that it would only, like, if it got down to 45, if it got lower than 45, then it would actually raise the temperature up to about 47 to 50 degrees. So there was never a chance of it getting down below 45, and if it hit 45, then the thermostat would turn the heater on, and it would turn the heater on until it got up to like 47 degrees, and then it would turn the heater back off. That way, your snakes are never going to get above that 65, but they're not going to get below the 45 either. So that's just an option for those of you who have a garage and, you know, a few different snakes that you do want to put in hibernation without having to put your entire collection in hibernation or whatever. That's just an option if you want to do that. That's what I did last year because I didn't have that many adults last year. I usually put them down for, like I said, between 2 and 4 months. I don't normally put like first timers. So when I say first timers, I mean like your 18-month-old males and then your like 2.5-year-old females. I will put them down just for the last 2 months that I would be putting snakes down in hibernation. So if I would be putting down, like, normally I put my males down first, my adult males that have already bred before. I put them down first, usually at the beginning of November, and then I'll have them down for about a month until I put the adult females down. So November, I put the adult males down that have already bred before. And then beginning of December, I'll go ahead and put the adult females down. This just gives the females an extra month to like get some weight on them, because when they are breeding, like, they need the extra calories, the extra weight to carry the eggs in the spring. The males don't need that. So I will usually put my males down a little bit longer than my females. So November, the males go down, December the females go down, and then January is when I would normally put down the younger babies. So when I don't say babies, but the younger up and coming males and females that are males, like I said, 18 months old, which is 1.5 years, and then females being 2.5 years, I'll go ahead and put them down like at the beginning of January, and they'll be down for all of January and all of February, and then I'll bring everybody out at the beginning of March. And that's when everybody is going to start breeding. You want to go ahead and start feeding them whatever they'll eat, especially the females. Feed them even double time if you want. and then you can go on to the breeding thing. And I can do a whole other video on how I do my breedings and stuff like that, but this is specifically focused on hibernation. So things you want to make sure you do before you put the snakes in hibernation is don't feed them for about 3 or 4 weeks before you put them down at hibernation. The reason for this is you don't want them to have like a half digested mouse or something in their stomach when they go down, because it will just rot in their stomach. Their bodies shut down so much that they don't usually really digest or anything like that. They do need water. Always give them fresh water, but you don't feed them for the whole time they're in hibernation. And you don't want to, because if they're not digesting that food, it will sit and rot in their stomach. And if it rots in their stomach, then when you bring them back up into warmer temperatures, their bodies will start trying to digest again, and all of that rotted material will, like the toxins from that, will get into their bloodstream, and it can kill them. I've had a few different times here and there when an adult did pass away coming out of hibernation because of, they just weren't completely emptied out. Like, you don't want those toxins to get into their bloodstream. It's not good for them. And this is another reason that I tell people to make sure you hibernate your snake for a long period of time. You don't want to shock their bodies too much by fluctuating the temperature a lot in a short amount of time. It's also really important to not take them from your 80 to 85 degree area all the way down to 55 degrees, just like that, and vice versa. If going the other way is actually worse for them, going from your 55 degrees all the way back up to 80 to 85 degrees. You don't really want to do that. You want to give them a little bit of a slope up and down when you're putting them down into hibernation and bringing them back out. So when I put mine into hibernation, like I said, I do my males first. So I'll take the males out of the snake room. The snake room stays at 84 degrees or so, 83, 84. I do ambient heat. That's just how I do things. For people who are using snake racks and stuff, maybe put all of your males in one rack and just turn the heat off on that rack. That way they will get down to room temperature, and that room temperature for most people is usually between 70 and 75 degrees. So you're taking them from 80 to 85 degrees down to 70, 75 degrees. And then you can take them down to the 65 degree area that will hopefully eventually get down to 55 degrees. You really don't want to jump too much further than 10 degrees at a time. You can go 15 degrees at a time, but you don't want to jump 20 degrees at a time. It's really not good for them. And then when I bring them back up, I do the opposite. So I will take them from their 55-ish degrees, 55, 65, and then bring them into the house from the garage. And then they will be in that area that's between 65, 70, maybe 75. We don't usually keep our house at 75 degrees. It's usually really close to 70. So it's okay to take your snake from 55 to 70, and then let them get used to 70 degrees for a couple days, and then go ahead and put them in your rack. Maybe set your rack at 75 degrees and then move up to 80 and then 85 or whatever you normally keep it at, just to kind of give them a little bit of a slope, because if you don't give them that temperature slope, it can really shock their bodies and it's just not good for them. So I hope that this video helped you guys. Like I said, winter is coming. So for those breeders out there who are getting ready to put snakes into hibernation, this is kind of just how I do it. Let me review one more time. I will put the adult males that have already bred before down first, and then a month later I put the adult females that have bred down, and then a month after that I will put the newer snakes down, so the females that I plan to breed next year for the first time, and the males I plan to breed next year for the first time, I'll go ahead and put them down. That way the adult males that have already bred before are down for a total of 4 months. The females that have bred before are down for a total of 3 months. And then the newbies are down for a total of 2 months. And then I usually will bring them all out at once and then start the breeding process. And like I said, I keep them at a temperature closest to 55 as possible, but anywhere between 45 and 65 degrees Fahrenheit. And yeah, that's really all you need to know about it. Just make sure you keep their enclosures clean. If they do poop at any point, they shouldn't. But if they do, keep their enclosures clean. Make sure they have clean water while they're hibernating. No feeding while they're hibernating. And for those of you who are kind of wondering, I hope that you made it to the end of this video, the difference between hibernation and brumation. I think that we have, as a community, have kind of decided that brumation is kind of an outdated term that we're not really using anymore, but they do mean the same thing, essentially. So I've been using hibernation because it's the most easy to understand for most people, and brumation is kind of, I don't necessarily want to say it's outdated, but there really isn't any point in the term, and I've talked to a lot of corn snake breeders here recently that kind of feel like there's really no reason for us to be saying brumation instead of hibernation. So I'm just saying hibernation. Like I said, if you guys are interested in eventually winning one of these books, make sure you're subscribed, share it with your friends, tell them to subscribe, and once we get to 500, I will be choosing someone to win this book. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, leave them down below, and I will see you in the next video.